Welcome back to the Auto Ranch. It's been a little while since I've done one of these videos. I've got a car I'm going to go over today that I've had for, I think I've had this car about 3 months now. I just haven't gotten around to making a video on it. But this has been my daily driver since around August, early September time frame. Anyways, I will flip it around and show you what I'm talking about. So what we got here is we have the 2022 Volkswagen Golf R. And this car is, I would probably argue this is probably the best daily driver under $50,000 that you can buy if you're a car enthusiast. And I say that because it's, there's certain criteria that, you have to have sort of on a daily driver that kind of makes a car fun for a car enthusiast. It's all-wheel drive. It's a turbo, 2-liter 4-cylinder, 315 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds of torque with the DSG, which this car has. The manuals actually have, I believe it's 280 foot-pounds, because I guess the manual transmission isn't set up to handle as much torque as the DSG. So, it's an all-wheel drive, it's quick, it has all the necessary, creature comforts that you would want, has a heads-up display. It's a very sporty but comfortable interior. Shut that off. These are kind of, they're kind of like Recaro seats, but they're not quite as heavily bolstered. But they're nicely appointed with the R logo. Kind of looks like a disco inside. You can change all the lighting is changeable. It's really a pretty high-tech, interior in terms of the dash. We'll go into in a second. It does have a sunroof, which they haven't really done sunroofs on the Golfs for the U.S. in a while, so that's kind of a neat feature. But I'll show you kind of the inside. Of course, the other requirements are the you've got heated and cooled seats, and then they have what Volkswagen calls the digital cockpit, which is kind of a must-have with these type of cars. And this is similar to what you would find in an Audi. It's very similar, cockpit. The other thing is, of course, you can't forget heated seat, or not heated seats, heated steering wheel. But this is all very configurable. You can change the display to several different. I think there's 5 maybe different settings for this. Obviously you can have the nav displayed on while you're driving, and then there's some more basic ones. So it's a pretty, it's very high-tech interior. Like I said, you pretty much have all the creature comforts that you would want. There's a wireless charging pad down there. Kind of a nice spot for your phone there. And they actually do make it so you can, you can open the center console. As some of you will remember, in the last generation, those were fastened shut for some reason on the US version. Of course, you got I believe this may have had one of the options may have been the day-night mirror with the compass. There's really not a lot of optional equipment on these. The big thing with these, and probably the biggest complaint you hear about these cars, is this digital infotainment system here. This gets a lot of bad press. Some of it is justified. There's no buttons, and one of the things that the internet did not like was that these are not backlit. So in a dark situation where you're driving, you cannot see the heating or heating or cooling options, as well as the volume. You have to kind of feel around for that stuff, which is kind of a pain. There's also no dial for the volume. Everything is, the intention of this was, I think, to be kind of a, like, you can wave your hands, kind of like, supposed to be like an iPhone or an iPad, to where you can move the screens. Now, as you can see, it's kind of hit or miss, but you do get used to it. And once you're used to it, it's really not that big a deal. But it's quirky, and it does deserve some of the criticism it gets, though I do think some of it's overdone. I think Volkswagen has kind of come out and said recently they're going to fix, they're going to adjust this and probably make some changes to it here in the near future, which is probably a good thing, honestly. So, you obviously have navigation, Apple CarPlay. Like I said, you can change the lighting, from, obviously this purple color was my pick, but it's got, several different colors that you can pick. The other thing is that the climate stuff is all done, that's all digital. There's no knobs or anything. So that's, that takes getting used to. And once you do, it's really not that big a deal. The other thing that's kind of cool about this car is it has, several different, like a lot of cars today, it has the different modes that you can program. For your, and a lot of these, you can change any of the different settings that are out there, like steering, the drivetrain, the engine sound, the adaptive cruise control, the light assist, and these can be anywhere. This one, the Golf R does have, at least in the US, they have what I think is called like the sport package, which I think in other countries is an optional deal, but it gives you the adaptive dampers, and there's a bigger wing on the, I believe, on the sports package. And any of this is adjustable. You can adjust it's all electric dampeners for the suspension. And the exhaust it's I'm inside, I won't start it up now, but there's videos out there. I mean, when the valves are open, sounds good. It's still a 4-cylinder, and getting a 4-cylinder to sound great is tough, particularly on a stock setup. I've looked at some, I like sound on cars. I've looked at some aftermarket exhaust. They don't really sound that much different, and with the electronic valves and stuff, they don't really sound that much different. And the cost is very expensive because of those valves. So if you're going to spend the money, at least you got to be getting something that sounds, get your adrenaline going. And I don't think the aftermarket ones so far that I've heard have really been worth the money. So I think that's kind of the interior. They do it does have a decent, back seat, and I'll show you the hatch. Now, one of the things that makes this car kind of unique is the 4 exhaust tips. That's how you kind of, that and the R, obviously, on the hatch. You kind of know you're looking at something different than the GTI. It's a little special. These are, the seats fold down, and this actually removes. I mean, you actually have a fair amount of cubic space to fill in if you have stuff that you need to store. This pad is one of those accessories that, that they add at the port. Let's take a look under the hood. Like I said, it's a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. This is the 4th generation of this motor. It makes, like I said, 315 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds with the DSG, which is, basically their sequential automatic. The only thing I've done to modify this is that they don't come with a hood strut. They come with a prop rod. I replaced it, so if I can do it, any idiot can do it. And then this is a Cobb carbon fiber engine cover. They had in Volkswagen Spirit, to some degree, they had a recall on the engine cover, so these cars don't come with an engine cover because I believe they caught fire. And it honestly, I normally wouldn't mess with it, but it just looks really bad under the hood. Yeah, it's certainly not a functional issue, but it is an issue in terms of looks. If you're ever going to open your hood, that looks a lot better than what the pictures you'll see out there. In a lot of the other reviews and magazines, they don't have the engine cover. I think Volkswagen redesigned it, and supposedly those will be replaced, or in the next, or at least in the 23s. Hopefully they'll come with a new engine cover. But it's pretty tidy in here. There's mechanically these cars are pretty sound. 'Cause like I said, it's the 4th generation of that motor. It's quick. It spools up. The turbo spools up very quickly, and it's these things are nimble. All-wheel drive. They definitely handle very well, and they're quick. The other thing I should point out is that this does not have factory. This does not have the factory wheels. This has aftermarket wheels on it. Those are Enki 19-inch wheels. I replaced the factory ones. From the factory, it comes with kind of a black and silver wheel. It's actually not a bad looking wheel, and there's a lot of people that want them. It was very easy to sell those when I took them off. And the other big factor was they come with summer tires from the factory, which make it a really good handle in the warm weather, but makes the car pretty much useless this time of year when the weather gets cold and if there's any type of weather. So I replaced them with these Enki wheels and some Continental. I think these are DSW WS06 pluses is the technical name. It's an all-season performance tire, and it still handles well, but it definitely lost some of its bite from the summer tires. But at least now it's usable in the Cincinnati winter type of weather. I kind of joked around a little bit with a teaser video, about which was more rare, the 22 GT500 or the 22 Golf R. And believe it or not, this car is the more rare of the two. We're not talking about which is the more fun car to drive, because they're very different cars with a different purpose. But these have been extremely difficult to get, and for the Mark 8 generation for the Golf R, when they only supposedly, I believe I read, imported maybe 1,600 of these for 22. Whereas the Shelby GT500 for 22, they made just under 4,000. So I've yet to see one of these on the road around here. They definitely were it's a year wait. A lot of markup situations with dealers. They're kind of hard to come by, but they are really, like I said, for under $50,000, it is probably one of the most fun enthusiast cars you can buy. You can drive it year round. It's got just about everything you would need, creature comfort wise. And the average new car transaction last month was over $48,000. So I know it seems like a couple years ago that was a lot of money for the average new car, but today that's kind of common. And yeah, it has kind of a different look. It's got the ground effects. And like I said, on the US versions, they kind of give you this kind of big wing thing on the back, if you want to call it that, as part of the package. But it's a good looking car. It handles well. It gets decent gas mileage. I don't drive it that aggressively all the time, so I'm averaging probably mid-20s on the miles per gallon. And like I said, it has good sound. The stereo, a lot of these had Harman Kardon deletes on them because they had a part shortage. This one has the stereo. It sounds good. I still think the Fender audio that they were putting in Volkswagens in the last Mark 7s was probably one of the best sounding stock systems you could get. So I'm not sure it's quite as good as that, but it's adequate. It has several different features that you can do to move it around where the sound is focused, which is kind of cool. So anyways, that's the Mark 8 Golf R. I've had it for a couple months. I figured it was time to do at least a little review on it. I will be doing one on the GT500 probably next. I know a lot of people are Mustang fans, including myself, obviously. And we'll do that one next. But I hope you all are having a great December so far, enjoying the holiday time of year, and we'll talk soon.